Welcome back and welcome to Town Square. It's a project where we ask you, our viewers, to drive the discussion on important topics. Now, after the last few weeks, we've asked you to share your thoughts on the topic of bullying. October is National Bullying Prevention Month, so we thought it would be fitting to get your input on it. We put together a survey. Here are some of the results. Of the 247 respondents, a full 91% say they have a child, friend, or relative who has been bullied. 83% said they were bullied themselves. 85% said the bullying happened on school property. According to StopBullying.gov, bullying is defined as an unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-aged children that involves real or at least perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. The website also says there are 3 types of bullies: verbal, social, or relational bullies, and physical. In our survey results, 58% of those who responded said either they or their child were verbally abused. 34% said social bullying was the problem, and 27% said the behavior turned physical. So this afternoon, we begin with one family who decided to come forward with their story. KOMU8's Leanne Danier joins us with the story of a Jefferson City 7-year-old.
The stories came from Columbia, Huntsville, Moberly, and almost every pocket of our viewing area. But Kent and Alicia Dunwoody from Jefferson City invited us into their home to tell us their story. Their child is just one of the 3 million children who say they're bullied across the country. We share the story of the family who's speaking out against bullying at their school. Parents put their faith in educators every day to not only teach their children to read and solve math problems, but to keep them safe.
I don't think it's safe when my daughter gets assaulted 3 times in the same day and blood's drawn, bruises, scratch marks are left. I don't define that as safe.
Hundreds of Mid-Missourians joined our conversation about bullying. They shared stories of teasing in hallways, nervous walks home from school. One student shared she contemplated suicide after the teasing became unbearable. Kent and Alicia Dunwoody live in Jefferson City. Their 7-year-old daughter, whose image we're keeping private, is a 2nd grader at Thorpe Gordon Elementary School.
She's fun-loving. She's very giving. She seems like, the kind of person that would do anything for anybody, and she's, she's a hugger. She loves, she loves people.
But just a week into the start of this school year, she told her parents about the name calling.
Like stupid, she's been called fat before.
But an incident on September 9th during a PE class sent them over the edge.
Well, she told me that 3 kids had hit her, kicked her, scratched her, punched her. So I pulled over in the parking lot immediately. I checked her out over the truck, and you could see the scratch marks, the bruises. Her boot was broke. Her thumb was bleeding, like where they almost ripped her thumbnail off.
Dunwoody immediately took his daughter to the principal. He says the principal changed her class and has done his due diligence to deal with matters as they arise.
She loves learning. They do a great job. Somewhere along the lines throughout that system, something has broke or has not been enforced.
Jefferson City Public Schools would not go on camera for this story, but released this statement. Unfortunately, state and federal regulations prohibit us as a district from commenting on individual situations dealing with student behavior. That said, the Jefferson City Public Schools take very seriously every incident reported to us, whether it is a case of bullying or students simply not getting along. Our staff works to find a resolution that is in the best interest of every student involved. Missouri state law requires 2 things. First, that all students and parents receive a written policy of discipline, and that all staff must report any instance of violence they see at school. KOMU8 News spent hours interviewing multiple families who ultimately decided they were not comfortable being on camera. Many said coming forward was too great a risk for their child. Many of those parents said bullying policies, definitions, and reporting requirements are too vague in mid-Missouri. The Dunwoodys say they spoke out because a larger issue is at play.
We want it fixed. Not just for our child, but every other child out there is getting bullied, picked on, so it doesn't lead to further issues down the road.
Bullying experts say keeping kids safe starts with listening and being persistent about reporting bullying. I spoke with about a dozen families over the last few weeks. My biggest takeaway from those conversations was the frustration in understanding both what qualifies as bullying and how schools move forward when a staff member doesn't see what happened.
Thanks, Leanne. Up next, how to tell if your child is in fact being bullied.
Bullies don't like resistance. They look for kids that don't fight back usually.
We sat down with a local psychiatrist, plus we'll examine how bullying affects kids and teenagers differently. As we go to the break, more of your comments. The solution to bullying problems truly begins at home. Earlier this week, I got to speak with Dr. Robert Klein of Pediatric and Adolescent Psychology Services. I asked him about the signs that a kid is, in fact, being bullied. I also asked if there's a difference in how a child and a teenager responds to bullying.
So here are a couple ideas that I talk to parents about, that I address. Number one, the classic symptoms are big change in behavior. You know, you had a child who wasn't nervous, that doesn't want to ride the bus. I have a child that was going to school fine, and there's some resistance. Again, that could be because a child has a stomach ache and they don't want to go to school. But what you start to notice as a parent is there's symptoms that are occurring frequently, and it's a change in behavior. The other thing that I look at is what the child's talking about. So the parental trick I say is, parents, keep a log, keep a diary, discuss it with your child over time. And then you'll see the symptoms cluster. So there is a change between bully behavior in smaller kids, 7, 8, 9, 10, than there is in 15-year-olds. And so the symptoms are similar, but the teenagers tend to get depressive. That's what I see. They're sad, they're upset, irritable, you know, don't want to go to school a little bit. And here's the problem, they're embarrassed. They don't talk to you. Even the best parents I see, they don't talk to you. They'll talk to me quicker sometimes than their parents.
And we did a longer interview with Dr. Klein. You can catch the entire interview online at KOMU.com.
Well, what we do is we put bullying into a giant basket with a bunch of other behaviors that are not really bullying. And so what that does is it lessens the importance of bullying when it actually occurs.
Up next, he says we have spread the anti-bullying message so well that we may have gone too far. What's bullying and what's just kids being kids? Talk about it next. Welcome back to Town Square. We took the issue of bullying to social media, and our Facebook lit up with comments about the fact that some bullying isn't really bullying. One survey respondent said parents, educators, society as a whole needs to let kids be kids until it is an issue. But another respondent said, it's not horseplay or just kidding around. I hear that a lot. Dr. Shannon Holden, an adjunct professor at Missouri State University, says it may be a little of both. And there's a movement growing that's starting to resemble a backlash against the anti-bullying crusade.
Well, what we do is we put bullying into a giant basket with a bunch of other behaviors that are not really bullying. And so what that does is it lessens the importance of bullying when it actually occurs. There are certain behaviors called, well, what I like to call lack of manners. There are some students out there who truly do not know common courtesy. And so we put that into a basket called bullying when it's really not bullying. Bullying behaviors are very specific. They are a set of behaviors that are repeated by someone towards one particular person, and it could be a group that's doing it as well. But they are intended to physically intimidate someone. They're intended to embarrass someone, and it also involves an imbalance of relational power. Most people do not understand what bullying actually is. We're always looking for simple answers to questions, and so what we do is we take every unkind behavior that one student does to another student and we label it bullying, and that really lessens the importance of bullying when it actually does occur.
On the other side of the conversation are the kids being accused of being bullies. Holden says that can be a tough topic for parents. He suggests using 5 questions to determine if your child is being a bully, and you can find those 5 questions online at KOMU.com. When we come back, some final thoughts on the topic and some resources for parents. We'll also have one last check of your very rainy forecast. We'll be back right after this. We want to thank everyone who's taken part so far in our Town Square, specifically focusing on bullying. You can still weigh in on our Facebook page. It's never too late, and read our story on KOMU.com for links to resources to help guide you through the challenges of having a child who is bullied, or perhaps if you are wondering if your child is being a bully. You can also go to our website to hear more from Dr. Robert Klein and Shannon Holden.